Okay, so I'm going to do another small video here on the glass tongue and also on work planes. So I'm going to say solid, and I think probably the best way for you to, there's different ways to do it. I'd encourage you to try different ways, but the glass tongue, the best way is probably solid ellipsoid. Ellipsoid, if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically an egg shape, or can be. It's a revolved ellipse, basically. So I'll say from center, click. As your first click, I'm going to hold down Shift. My second click, third click, and then for my fourth click, it's actually in the Z-axis in the top view. So to get better control, I'm actually just going to move my mouse over to the perspective, and I can even zoom in and click. So kind of like an egg. And you might be in wireframe, and so you only see this. I would recommend switching to shaded, just for this part of the operation. And so I'll select this, and if I were to type in points on and start moving these things around, you're going to see that it's going to develop this hard edge here, which is the opposite of what we want. So I'm going to undo, redo that. Control Y, Control Z. Control Z is undo, Control Y is redo. So I undid the nudging that I was doing. And I'll type points off, just to get those off there. If you remember the rebuild command, it's under Edit, Rebuild, or you could just type in Rebuild. Basically lets us add more points, and it also lets us move to a 3-degree curve. So that's kind of a blast from the past, because we talked about that at the beginning of the semester, and then I mentioned it at the end as a review. But if that isn't familiar to you, a 1-degree curve or a 2-degree curve is kind of what we have, where it kinks. A 3-degree curve is that smooth, freeform curve that we've been dealing with most of the time. So I'll say rebuild. And then remember hopefully remember this dialog box. The parentheses is where you're seeing the existing conditions. So we have a 2-degree curve in both axes. We want a 3 and a 3. And we can leave these point counts fairly low. 8 and 5 is fine. We don't want too many. So I'll say OK. And so now we get this kind of odd shape at the end. I'm going to type in points on. You can just be hitting F10, but for me, F10 turns off my video recording software, so which can be frustrating when you're in the middle of a video. So I'll just drag a box around this end point just to make sure if there's more than one, I'm actually getting them all. And then I'll just nudge back. And maybe do that a bit here, but not as much. Then I'll grab all of these. So you're getting the idea, hopefully. This is kind of how you begin. I might grab these and type in the scale command, S-C-A-L-E. And I don't know where the best axis is. This is going to take some trial and error. But I'm going to click here as my origin, and there. That maybe. Not sure if that was the right thing to do, but maybe I'll undo that actually, because I see it got a little cockeyed up here. So I'm going to undo. And maybe try that command up here, scale. And I want to probably be snapping somewhere along the central axis. Click, hold down Shift, click. There, that's giving me more of the effect that I want. Then I can grab these, move them in, count the number of times you nudge. So that was 1, 2, 3. And then there's different things you can do. Let's grab this and type in rotate. Maybe click here, there, kind of like that. Grab these, and maybe actually grab all of these and type in scale, and use this as a base point. That's getting us more of the effect we want. So just keep working at it like that. Keep in mind that there are other scale tools. There's, under the transform menu, scale. There's scale 1D, 2D, and 3D. We've been doing 3D, so it scales in X, Y, and Z axes. But for example, if you wanted to scale just here to here, scale in one axis, so just basically pinch this thing, you could do a scale 1D. So keep in mind there's these different tools. So I'll leave you to work on that. Just nudge this around a little bit. Use my arrow keys there. Something like that. Points off. So another thing to talk about is our work planes. So I've got this little shape here. I'm gonna revolve it. Just here to there. 0 to 360. There. So supposing I wanted to, well, let's see. I'm gonna move this up here. Okay, I'm just gonna move it up to where it's not on the work plane. So, supposing I've got this part of my lamp, and this isn't really accurate to the lamp, but supposing I had this thing in space, and I wanted to draw something up here, what's the best way to get that object up there? Well, if I were to, say it's a screw head or something that I'm wanting to put as a detail. So, I might have a, let's just do something simple, box. Everything I draw, if I wanted this box to be up here, everything I draw ends up on this gray work plane. And it's just kind of what Rhino comes with, and there's just no, that's just what it kind of tends to draw on. That's the way it works. It's a work plane based modeler. So how do you change your work plane to where you can draw this rectangle not there, but somewhere more meaningful, so maybe where you want it, like at the top of this thing? Well, you go to any viewport, so every viewport has its own work plane. You can see it in gray here with the grid lines. You go to the viewport name, you right click, and you say set C-plane. C-plane stands for construction plane, or work plane would be what I've been calling it, and that's typical too. And you can change it in all these different ways. One of the most convenient things to do is say set C-plane to object. So I'm going to say to object. I'm going to rotate around. If I clicked here, you don't know if it would get if I clicked here, sorry, you don't know if it would get this plane or if it would actually hit behind, because it's not that great for guessing. Even though I click here, it probably would set my construction plane to something aligned with this curve. So I'm going to do something kind of tricky. I'm just going to look straight down on this thing so there's nothing behind it. So when I click, Rhino doesn't even have room to guess. It's just going to do what I asked first time. So I'm going to click, and now, lo and behold, my construction plane is now at the top of that. So I can go in here, and I could say solid, maybe sphere, center radius. Oh, beware of the near object snap. Notice I have near on. I always tell people to turn that off. It's snapped down there. So I'm going to actually, for just the moment, I'm going to turn off object snap, and I'm going to go back and say solid, sphere, center radius. I disabled object snap down here by clicking disable. So now I can actually click, and now things are actually getting drawn on my construction plane, which I have placed at the top of that object. So then I could do whatever I need to do, maybe zoom in over here, and scale, well, leave the scale, but I could then maybe do a solid box, corner to corner height. Nothing too exact here, but there. And then I go over here, select this, mirror, enable object snap, and make sure that near is off and center is on. And well, that didn't work. Mirror. I want to snap to the center. There we go, center. Wanted to snap to the center of that sphere. And then another little tip, if I want to go 45 degrees, you can actually type in less than 45, and now it's going to be willing to snap to 45 degrees. So it just adds 45 as a snapping option. So less than 45 will give you a 45-degree snap option. So click. So now I've got two things intersecting my little sphere there. I can say solid, difference, here, enter, here, enter, and now I've got some semblance of a screw head. So you can kind of see how that works, hopefully. So that's it, just a couple little tips. Hopefully they're useful, and I'll leave you to it.